Welcome back. Let's look at the first C program. In this chapter, we will create our first C program. It will be a hello world program, right? Also, we will see what happens during the entire compilation process. So we will be using an online GDB editor through this. So first in this, we will look at what happens in a computer program. So there is an input which is fed by the user to the computer. Then there is a processing which happens on the input, right? So this input is fed into the computer program. Whatever the user enters as input gets processed within the computer program, and then an output gets generated, right? So this is the simple process: input, process, and output. This is what happens in every computer program. Now you have a variety of input devices, right? So typically let's take an example, right? So input could be 3 and 4 and you have to do an addition. In the processing, 7 is calculated and that gets output to the screen, right? That's a very simple process of a computer program. Now typically your input is a keyboard, right? So user enters the input through a keyboard and the process is done, and finally the output gets displayed on the monitor, right? This is a simple program which gets depicted. You have various output devices, right? So a monitor is an output, a printer could be an output. There are a variety of output devices available. Input typically is a keyboard. You can also use a stylus, even though you cannot type characters there. Now let's go to online GDB. We will start writing the program, right? So this is the place, right? onlinegdb.com. You select the language first. Let's select C here, and then it kind of looks dark. So let me select the light font here. So now you can type the C program here, right? So hash include stdio.h void or int main, and then open curly bracket, printf hello world. This is a very simple C program with just 5 lines of code. The objective of this is to print hello world. So now this is the editor, and then I click the run button. Now the compilation happens. This editor, this program was compiled, and this output hello world is displayed on the screen, right? So Turbo C or online GDB, right? For that matter, online GDB is an IDE. So this is the editor where you compile it, and finally the output gets displayed here. So it has the editor, it has the compiler, and the runtime environment. So all three are able to see here. You type the code in the editor, you click the run button, and then finally the output gets executed and displayed in the hello world, whatever you see at the bottom. So every C program compiles from the top of the file to the bottom of the file, right? So hash include stdio.h is the first line to be compiled. So that will be the first thing that gets compiled till the last curly bracket that you saw in the earlier program. So main function is where the program execution starts. Every C program, irrespective of how many ever lines you have, main function is where it starts. Finally, int, you see here, int before the main that you see there, int returns an integer to the operating system back. Again, we'll see this later. So every C program has an hash include stdio.h where you include the source, right? Here in this program, you have printf. So the details about what is printf, what it should be doing, the source code for that is included in this stdio.h. It is called a header file, standard input output header file, right? So the printf source code, as I said earlier, is within this. So next step, when we see the compilation process, you will see that the actual code for the printf gets included when the compilation happens. For now, all you have to do is to say hash include stdio.h. So after this, you go to the int main, right? So open bracket, close bracket, empty brackets are there as of now. And then you have this open curly bracket and close curly bracket, right? Now int main, within this, what it says is the C program starts the execution here, right? This is the first line that gets executed in any C program. The int there says it's going to return something. Now the open curly bracket and close curly bracket is the syntax. So this is called a logical block. This entire thing is called as a function. So C program is written as functions. There are many functions that you can have within the C program. your own functions, or the main is a mandatory one. You need to have a main in every C program. So this is where the program starts. Now, when you see return 0 here, it returns 0, right? So here it says an integer is the return type before main, right? So it says that the 0 will be returned to the operating system. That's what this return 0 does. So now that we have seen how this entire process is getting compiled, right? So how this program looks like, what is the structure of a C program? Before we go into the entire compilation process, remember that there is a backslash n here, right? What a backslash n does is it inserts a new line. So hello world, printf actually prints hello world on the screen, right? You see that there is a semicolon at the end of every line. There is a curly brackets as well, right? So this hello world that you give within the double quotes gets displayed on the screen. Now let's move on to see what happens during a compilation process, right? During a compilation, the first step is called the pre-processing, right? So this is how it looks like. This is called pre-processing. In the pre-processing step, the actual stdio.h, the entire contents of stdio.h gets expanded like this, right? The source code does not get updated, but what happens during the compilation is the stdio.h gets expanded and gets included. Now when you compile the entire code, stdio.h along with your main program that you have written here gets compiled, right? Once this entire compilation happens, an output gets generated, which is the exe file that we talked about. This exe file can be executed. When you execute, you see the hello world output on the screen. Now, some of the key things that you need to remember is slash star star slash. The comments that we talked about earlier are completely stripped out, right? The include files get expanded. So these are some of the key things that happen during the compilation process. Now, let's look at the summary of what we saw in this program, right? We saw the first C program, we wrote a C program, we printed out hello world. Want all of you to try that out.